Hey, so I just got to make my coffee for today's coffee and crochet. And I put it in, just take the cozy down a little so you can see it. One of my, sounds crazy, Starbucks cups. But it's a Starbucks cup I got from Starbucks, and it works perfect for cozies. If I don't have a cup from like Starbucks, CC's, Dunkin' Donuts, Tim Hortons, whatever, Dutch Brothers, all the places, their cups are great because it's realistic. But if I don't have one, this does work good. It does go on it, no problem. This is not the coffee cozy we're going to do today. It's the next one we're going to do. Today we're going to learn the stitch that's on this so we can make this next time. So if you've seen this and you're like, oh, this would be perfect, don't worry, I will get it done before the end of the school year. So if you live in the South like I do, and I know my kitchen echoes. So if you live in the South like I do, I'm actually making this video May 5th. So I know it's coming up in all the craziness, but since bus drivers aren't teachers, they just help take our kids to the teachers. You can always do those gifts a little later than doing it this coming week. That's Teacher Appreciation Week. So I will get that done next. So you should have that hopefully by the end of the week. But as far as our coffee goes, it tastes really good too. This time I had cold brew from Tim Hortons. It's birthday cake flavored. I love all things birthday cake, so I just couldn't help myself for trying it. And well, I've lived in northern states. I've never had a Tim Hortons by me, so I've never had their coffee. So I was kind of excited to try it because I've always heard good things about Tim Hortons, and it's really good. I will put a link for it if I can find one in the descriptions below. Otherwise, I will tell you I got it at Walmart, and I'll put whatever info I can about where to get it in the description too. It's concentrated, so you have to pour some in, put some water, put ice, and all your favorite flavor add-ons. So I used a vanilla creamer with it, which just really accents and brings out that vanilla birthday cake flavoring in it, and it's delicious. So I'm gonna head over to the table, and we'll get started and look at what we need to use today to learn the half double crochet. We will also be working a continuous round instead of what we did last time where we worked in rows. So working a continuous round or continuous row, you're going to keep going in a circle. You're never going to turn your work like we did, and you'll understand and see it like when I explain it. And that kind of also helps set you up to work in the round and making circles, which we will work on later when we're not making a crochet coffee cozy. So let's get started. All right, let's get this started. So if this is your first time being with me with coffee and crochet, we're going over the half double stitch today. I will lightly go over chaining and the slip knot before we get started, and yeah, so if you need to, if it's a little hard, you can go back to the other video where I took a little bit more time, or just be ready to pause and practice where you need to, even in this. So let me get a little closer. You will need a 4.5 millimeter hook for this. If you are making super tight stitches and you're struggling to get your hook through your work, bump yourself up to a 5 millimeter hook. That does happen sometimes when we're new to crochet, so I always like to keep that option available to you. It will work just fine with the yarn we're using today. You will also need a tapestry needle at the end just to weave in your ends, so you don't even need it for much. And then a pair of scissors. They don't have to be microtips. I just happen to really like microtips. And then we're going to use a 4-weight yarn. I do tend to like the I Love This yarn from Hobby Lobby, but use whatever you can get your hands on that you like, that you know, you do you, boo, in that case. It's just their acrylic yarn, as you can see, has a nice price point for a lot of yarn, and it's easy to work with. And this particular brand, for being acrylic, is really soft. So I tend to like to use this for most things, especially hats. But to kind of change up what color I'm using, and I wasn't planning on using that one, because last time I used like a mint, I just went through my stash to find something, and I found this really bright pink, and it's a Red Heart Super Saver, and here is, oops, Grenadine is the name of it. So if you really like this color and want to use it too, you are more than welcome to. And I will have a link for this specific yarn in the description below for you, if that's what you're wanting to get. I think I got it at Walmart, to be honest. I don't remember, but Walmart, I know, is kind of hit or miss for yarns because it's not like their specialty. It also depends on the Walmart near you. So, without further ado, we're going to get started. I'm going to move that a little out of the way so I just have the string coming in. And let me get us repositioned. Alright, so end goal is to master the half double crochet so we can make this next. And the goal is to get both of these videos out this week so you can get that bus cozy made for your awesome bus driver before your school year ends. So, I'm just going to show the way I do the slip stitch since I went over it in depth in the previous video. So if you struggle with this, go check out my coffee and crochet single crochet tutorial to learn multiple ways to make this slip knot. So I'm just gonna cross it like that, put my hook through, grab the yarn, pull it through, and pull tight. Now I have my little slip knot that I can adjust. All right. So now we are going to chain 36. So to do a chain, we'll have that loop on the hook. We're gonna take our, move us closer. Gonna take our yarn and yarn it over, and then pull it through. Again, take that yarn over and pull it through. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna move my hands out and I'll let you watch me chain since it's pretty fast. I have 2, so here's 3. So now I have 36 chains, and we will get started doing our half double crochet. And we are not going to work this in rows, so if you are not comfortable with how I work this in rows, I will give you an alternative when we get to the end, so you can work it in rows and sew up the edge like we did with the single crochet at the end of the first video. So you can do it just like that if that makes you more comfortable. This is just me teaching you another method, and do not fret if you're not comfortable with this method. The bust, if you're wanting to do it, does get sewn. It is worked in rows. So we will get to that later. So let me move us forward so you can really see these stitches. Okay, so here's our first 2 chains. We're going to skip those 2, yarn over, and then go into that 3rd chain like that. If you prefer to go this way, then you can do that too. I just prefer to go through the back. Now we're going to yarn over and pull it through. Now we got 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and go through all 3 loops, and that is our half double crochet in US terms. So again, we're going to yarn over and now go into that first chain next to you, and then my hand let go of my string. Yarn over and pull through. Now we have 3 on the hook again. Yarn over, pull through all 3. Now I'm going to show you what I do with my hook. That way if you're new and this is your first video, you get an idea of how to manipulate that hook. So I'm going to bring it back. So you want to hold your hook however it's comfortable for you. Yes, I'm left-handed. You can do this right-handed. Some left-handed people crochet right-handed. Some right-handed people crochet left-handed. So find whichever hand the hook is comfortable in. It doesn't matter. And you're just going to mirror my images, mirror me if you are right-handed. So I tend to kind of hold it like I'm going to be casting a spell, like it's a wand. And that's just personal preference. Then, however it's comfortable, lots of people will tell you, oh, you need to wrap it through these and then around or whatever. I don't care. I have found that sometimes how people explain how you need to wrap your string for tension doesn't always work for me. So I mainly use this finger as a guide, and I use that finger to wrap it for tension. So do what's comfortable for you, because you will find the most success when you find a groove that works for you. If you can't seem to get comfortable, there are tension rings out there that are great for people getting started with crochet, and then they find they don't need it later. Some people use it too if they're working on big projects and they need it to just be consistent, and they find sometimes they're not consistent with their hand. So after you get that figured out, you want to have it however it's comfortable. And now I'm going to bring it forward so you can watch my hook. Way too close. Okay, so next hook, we're going to put it through, right? And I have it, the little hook part pointing up. I'm yarning over so I can turn it and grab that yarn and then pull it through. What that does is it makes it so the hook is holding onto this thread, but it's not grabbing the loop of the stitch. And then I yarn over, and again, so I don't grab any of those loops, pull it through, I twist it. So I'll show you again. Oops, it's got a twist. If your chain is twisty, just kind of untwist as you're going. It will all flatten out as we work. So again, pull it under like that, and then yarn over to catch it, grab it, bring it through. Now if you watched that time, I didn't get it to slide all the way through all 3 at once. I twisted it a little. So let's see if I can show you that again. So sometimes it doesn't want to go just smooth like that, so you have to kind of wiggle it, but don't move the hook up like this, because you'll end up snagging one of those loops on your hook, and it'll mess up your stitch. So again, go through the next chain, yarn over, pull through, and you have 3, yarn over, pull through all 3. And again, this is your half double crochet. I'm going to go ahead and finish this and get us to the end where we will work on our next step and crochet on top of these stitches. Seriously, guys, you've got to try this Tim Hortons birthday cake cold brew. It is delicious. And no, I don't get paid to say that. If only. But let's get to it. Okay, so I have one stitch left. I wanted to do it and then show you what the next bit was going to be. So we're going to go through that chain, yarn over, pull through again, and then yarn over and pull through all three. So now we have this first row, and if you're with me on the last video, we would be right now chaining 2 instead of 1 because it's a bigger stitch, and then turning our work like that. So if that is more comfortable for you, continue to do that. You're going to do it for 10 rows. But we're not doing that, so I'm going to pull out those 2 chains. And I'm going to make sure that this stays straight. And I'm going to bring this over. And then I'm going to put my, go down here to where the chain is. And I'm just going to slip that in to connect them. And do this. It is a slip stitch. And then, because it's not really, let's see, how do I want to do this? You know what, we're going to continue doing rows. And you want me to explain to you why? I will really quick and show you what we would have been doing. So with this one, I'm going to do rows. I totally didn't catch it, not thinking about it. So I'm going to use red because I have red right here. It is from I Love This Yarn. And I'm going to pause the video real quick to get my chains to show you this so we don't. This will be the alternative. So I will work both of these together so you can see how this is going to progress. So before I do that, if you are wanting to work rows, this one, we're going to work rows. And we will chain 2. And then we're going to turn our work so we can continue working the way that we went with that first row. So if you're left-handed, you're going from left to right. If you're right-handed right now, you should be on this side, working right to left. And now that we have those 2 chains, we're going to yarn over, put it through that first stitch, which I'm going to bring it in so you can really look to see how it looks. It has, instead of just the one little loop from the chain, it's got 2. You're going to go under both of them. So, like this. If you prefer going through the front, it'll look like that. Okay, so go on your preferred way of going through the stitch. You're going to now yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So let me get this other one started. Pull that out and show you the alternative method. So if you were wanting to work it as a continuous stitch around and around and around, pause your horses. Okay, I'm back. So unfortunately, if you want to work in a continuous round, you will need to remove that first row of half double crochet if you'd made it up to this point. And you only want 34 chains, not 36. The reason for the 36 was to have those 2 turning chains to bring it up. So I have 34 chains. I'm now going to bring this around to my hook. And I don't need that turning chain because I'm bringing this around. Now I'm going to bring it closer. And let it get into focus. And then I'm going to go ahead and yarn over and bring it into that first chain by the slip knot and yarn over, just like we've been doing with our half double crochet. Now I got 3 on the hook. I'm going to yarn over and bring through all 3. Now, some people don't like the look at that because it's going to be kind of a weird bump. So if you don't like how that looks, what I would recommend is undoing it. And what you're going to then do in that first chain, you want to make sure this is straight, because sometimes that chain gets twisted and then you're going to have to undo it, and you won't know until you get that first row out of the way. So what you can do is in that first chain, instead of doing your half double crochet, just do a slip stitch. And now that it's connected in that first chain, do a half double crochet. Okay. Now, we're going to do one more in this, and then I will pause and come back to show you what it's going to look like. So we yarned over, went through the next stitch, yarned over, pulling it through, yarn over, pull through all 3. So we're still doing half double crochet. We just already have our piece connected as one full piece, so we're going to go continuously around and around and around. And what this does is it makes it so you don't have to sew it together. It's kind of like a no-sew coffee cozy. Do you still need a tapestry needle? Yes, just to weave in your 2 ends, the one from starting and stopping. But you wouldn't have to sew this way. So if you don't like the sewing option, this is a good way to do it. Like I said, the bust does get sewn, and that's just because of how I designed it. So now I'm going to go through again, and I'm going to keep going through again. If you need to practice this stitch, now that you've seen me do it multiple pieces, just pause the video for a little bit or rewind to watch it a little bit more. I will show another up close of me doing half double crochet as I get both pieces second rows worked, but I will be back when I have this first row done so you can see how this is progressing. All right, we are back, and that second row on the one that we're going to sew together at the end is done, and minus the last stitch. So I was going to do the last stitch quick, and put it right in there. Be careful not to put it in that turning chain. And boom. And then I'm going to chain 2. 1, 2. Sorry, I keep bumping the camera. And then I'll turn my work. And you should have a pretty straight line if you have the right number of stitches in that row. It should be pretty straight. And this end should also be straight. It might be a little curly, but that will straighten out as we keep going. So you're just going to keep going into that third row the same way as we have been. Really quick, one more reminder. Whoop. Yarn over. Go through both of the loops for the stitch. Yarn over again. Pull through. Yarn over. Pull through all 3. And then I'm going to put that to the side and show you if you are doing the no-sew method of going all the way around. We are, I'm sorry, I'm totally like hitting it as much as possible with the same. We're going to get my hook back in here and we're going to take a look at it. So it is straight, yay me, and we are at that spot where I connected the 2 and did the first stitch. So what we want to do then is count these to see if we need to put one there. You should have 34. I have 34. Now I did that because and took the time to do it because one, I didn't really count them before I got on here, but you should count them as you're doing them. But since I'm making two at once, I would have forgotten. So in all honesty, sometimes it's good to just go back through and double check. So we don't want to put another one there because it's just going to make this bigger and we don't need that. So what you're going to want to do, and I'm going to show you, I'm probably going to end up showing you two options to see, because depending on how loose you're crocheting, this hole might be big and you don't like that. So I'm going to attempt right now to just half double crochet right into that next stitch up on top of it without turning or anything. Okay, so there is a hole. Depending on what I'm using this for, I might be covering that up with an applique and I wouldn't care. So you can keep going with it like that. You could opt to go ahead and add a stitch into that spot and just cover it up that way. So then there'd be 35 stitches on that first round instead of 34. And now I'm going into that first stitch to show you what this looks like. So as you can see, that covered it up really easy. I now moved up onto the next row. Easy peasy, no, not a big deal. Okay, so that's another way to do it. Now I'm going to pull that apart, pull out that stitch. Okay, that stitch you might want there anyways, but this is another way to do it. So then the other way to do it is to bring it in with a slip stitch. I showed you how to do that one in the first video, so those are nice and tight. Chain one, and I'm chaining one instead of chaining two. If you know, we're paying attention with this one, we're chaining two. I chained one on purpose because I want to minimize the chain and the seam going around. Now I yarned over, and in that same stitch where I put that chain, I'm going to do a half double. So you'll have to do that chain one each round when you get here to basically climb up to the next row. But it does work. It does give you a seam. The seam's a little, it's not any more evasive than the seam here on this or the seam on this. But I mean, it will be a slight seam, so it would show you where the back of your piece is. It does make it so you continue moving with ease. If you do it the other ways where you're not using that chain to climb yourself up, you will want to have a stitch marker or keep count as you move around. Here's a stitch marker which would show you the beginning of the round that you worked on, so that way you know when you're starting another round around it. So now we would just continue going like this. Having this bump up like this, you know where the end and the beginning is, so you don't need that stitch marker as much. You just need to count to make sure you don't accidentally put two half double crochets in one stitch, because that would be an increase. So how you do this in the round is completely up to you. Also depends on if you're reading a pattern, but now you know there's multiple ways to do it. Adding the one stitch isn't that big of a deal, so it's 35 instead of 34. The reason I only do 34 on this is because it has a little bit more give on from how we made it. Also, the half double crochet in general has a little bit more give, so it's not gonna sit as tight as the single crochet that we did in the last video. If any of that was confusing, definitely rewind, rewatch to get a handle on how to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and continue working this second row on this. So this one is caught up to this because it's getting ready to go into its third row. And that way you can see the progress on this as well at the same time. Okay, and I'm back. I have one more stitch to put in it, and then I will show you how to climb up again. If you're wanting to do one of the other methods, you just keep watching how I did it initially when I was showing you the different ways to do it, and you would again do it just like that going into the next row. I am showing the chaining one to bring you up to the next row because it's really the simplest right now. It makes it so you're not stressing about losing your place, and while yes it has a seam, that can be worked with later. This is really just showing us how to use these stitches, how to start making stuff. So now that I have all these stitches in the row, I'm going to go into that first one and do a slip stitch. So that's when you go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through both loops. Now I'm going to chain one, and in that same first stitch I'm going to do my first half double crochet. So I yarned over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all three. And of course this one's going to play. There we go. So now I'm on my third row for this one. And if you don't like how it's kind of got this little separation right here, that's fine, because when you weave in this end, you're going to take it this way to pull them together. So I'm going to pause on that one, and I'm going to bring this one back over. It should be starting to flatten out some. We're getting ready to go into row 3. So you would be, we had already talked about this, we chained 2, and then we went right into that first stitch with a half double crochet. Again, we're only half double crocheting because this is us learning how to do that. So one more time, I'm going to show you some more half double crochet stitches slowly, and then I will go off screen to finish up the rows on these. You should have 10 rows, and that's not including the chain. So let's talk about how to read these rows quick. I'll bring it close. So you can see these bumps. So if you haven't been keeping track, this right here is a row. This right here is a row. So right now we have 2 rows on the pink, and we're getting ready to go into row 3. Make sure that you're keeping note on your rows as you're going through so you don't lose count if you have to walk away. And then the same for this. Right here is your first row. We are not counting this chain down here. And then up here where these bumps are, that's your second row. So these are both going into row 3. We will come back at row 10. So be sure to rewind if you need to get more comfortable with these stitches. I'm going to do a couple of stitches in this one slowly and a couple of stitches in that one slowly. So whether you're doing this one or that one, you will get a couple more stitches. The stitch is the same in both, but that way you can kind of feel progress going into your piece with me for the piece I'm doing for yours. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and yarn over because we already know we need that. Again, you have the V shape if you look at it this way, but it's just those 2 loops. That's your stitch. You're going to go through it, go through the back, or the front, whichever feels more comfortable for you. Only thing I say is if you start going through the front, do it all the way across that row, so that way all of your stitches are uniform. Yarned over and pulled through, and so now I have 3 on the hook. Going to yarn over again and go through all 3. So again, start with a yarn over and go through that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 3, yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. And now for our one that is a no-sew. So we are going to yarn over just like the other one. Look, we have the same V's. They just might kind of be facing the other way depending on which way you brought it together as you're doing this, and which way you're crocheting if you're doing left or right-handed. So again, yarned over, went through the stitch, and just like the other one, you can go through the front or the back, whatever's comfortable for you, so long as you stick with that way all the way through the round for nice uniform stitches. So go through the stitch, yarn, which you should have yarned over. So right now in the stitch we should have 2 loops on our hook. We're yarning over to pull through to have 3 on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. One more time. Yarn over, push it through, yarn over, all 3 on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. So I will see you when we get to 10 rows. All right, we are back and ready to do row 10. I'm actually going to just do one, and it'll be this one, because the process is the same on both as far as what I'm going to be doing. And then the only difference is how they are woven in at the end. So this will be pretty quick. And for this one, because I will not be doing this last part on screen, I will just show you how to weave in this end, because you would only have 2 ends to weave in on this one, because it should have formed nicely for you. Yes, you have that seam, but it is fairly minimal seam, like I had said, and if it really bothers you, then an applique can get put on it to cover it up. We'll be doing stuff with applique type things over the next couple of videos. At least in the next one you will see the tires put on and a little stop sign. So the concept would be the same as these. So let's get started, and then like I said, I'll go ahead and weave this one on camera for you guys. So I did 9 rows, and I said I'd come back at 10, or that I'd have 10 done depending on how I worded it. I had decided as I was making this that 9 was enough, since this is just a plain cozy, especially when I'm using my hand as reference. The majority of my palm is covered, so I don't want to make it too much bigger, or else it will cover the entire cup, which some people might like. Also, I can take this and go, okay, that's already bigger than this one, which this is the single crochet, and this was 10 rows, which that isn't surprising because this is a bigger stitch. So I simply just don't need as many rows. So for row 10, what I'm actually going to do is do a finishing row on the top. If you watch the single crochet video, it's going to be the same thing as I did in that. I'm going to do slip stitches across it. So this should be review if you watched that video. If not, don't worry, I've got you. We'll get you all taken care of with this. So I didn't turn yet, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 to turn. That way it's not getting all weird. And then to do the slip stitch, I will do a couple. You're simply going to come in here and go through your stitch just like we have with everything else, and yarn over, and then you're going to slip it back through and then slip it through the loop on the hook. There is no more yarning over at that point. So again, you're going to take your hook and slip it through the stitch, yarn over, slip, and then pull through, and then pull through the loop. So it's a double pull through. And then I'll go slow again so you can kind of watch. And again, you can go through the front or the back of the stitch, whichever it is you prefer. I just go the way that I prefer. And be sure to really manipulate your hook so it's doing the work for you. Sometimes people will try and move the yarn around in different ways to make it go through the loop, when really your hook is designed to do the work for you. So again, I'll walk you through it. You go to the next stitch. We're not skipping any stitches, and you go through, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through again. So go through the stitch, yarn over, pull through the loop on the hook, and done. And it will have this nice little edge appearance added to it. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and get to the end so that way I can show you how to weave these in quick. Okay, so let me pull this back a little. So I went ahead and did this one completely off camera. Like I said, we're just slip stitching around, just like I showed you on this one, so it didn't need to be demonstrated because it would have been repetitive. So this one you just need to cut off a little bit. You don't need a lot of string because you're just going to finish it off and then weave in the end. So that's ready to go. This one, because it is flat, it needs sewn together. You're going to need to make your string on this one a little bit longer so that way you have enough yarn to weave in your end. So to finish off, I had pulled this through after I was done with the last stitch. In fact, I can show you on this one really quick how that all plays out, so you know. So what I just did, in case you're wondering, is I pulled out that last stitch so I could redo it so you could see the whole process. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do that last slip stitch and bring it through, so now I have a loop. Well, I made it bigger with my hook to put my hook down, and that way it wouldn't go into the work. And then I'm going to take the string, the extra tail, and I'm going to put it through the loop completely. So now it's completely through the loop, and now I'm going to pull, and this is called finishing off. So now it's done. There's no loose ends. It can't come apart. It is done. And then I would do the same here. I would take this, take the tail, pull it through, and then pull tight. So for this one, yeah, there's that little bump right there. And that's okay. It'll go away when I weave it in. So this one I'm going to put inside out so I can weave in the ends on the inside and they're not seen on the outside. So simply how you do that is you just get your tapestry needle, and then you're going to take it. Now see, there's this spot right here that's not, it feels like it's not super even, like it hangs down slightly. I want to fix that, so I'm hooking into it and then bringing that thread over to the other side to connect it, and continuing to sew in. And what I'm doing is I'm being careful to keep it on this side so it doesn't go all the way through, so that way it can't be seen. And then when you pull, it's just nice and straight. Now remember, we did use acrylic with these. While you can use fancier yarn to make these coffee cozies, one, I find acrylic great to work with when you're new at crochet, but also with these, because you're putting it on coffee cups, you have the chance of your coffee spilling and staining your cozy or coffee sleeves. Some people call them coffee sleeves. So by using an acrylic, you can just toss it in the washing machine and it will be fine. Some of the fancier yarns are not okay with that. So now this one is done, and there was no sewing required. We were just weaving in ends. So that might be something you find you like, is to go on no sew routes when possible because of that. Now we have two tails on this, the end and the start. I'm going to go ahead and weave in the start one because they're on opposite ends. So when this one gets down to the bottom, it will smooth out any edge there was. Now, because this is half double crochet, you have bigger holes in your work than we did when we did the single crochet. So you do have to kind of watch that to figure out where you're putting your tail. And so now I'm going to thread this end into this one, and I'm going to hold this, and I'm going to look at both sides because it will bend whichever way I want, and see which side I would like to use. I'm going to have this side as my outside, so for now I'm going to roll it up in the inside because you want all of your stitching weaving in on the inside of it. Now I should have looked at that when I weaved in the first one, but I did weave it in on this side too, so there was that. Okay. So for this, you don't need to know any fancy stitching. You just need to be able to take your needle and put it through every opportunity of stitch as you work down to make sure there's no gaps or holes. So you can do a cross stitch, you can do a whip stitch, whatever you feel. If you know fancy stitches, if you don't know fancy stitches, that's okay too. Just move to the next available spot to push your needle through both sides and pull, because this isn't, it's a coffee cozy. It's not going to get tugged on a lot to have that you would need to reinforce your stitching. It's not going on a head or anything where it's not a wearable, so your stitching does not have to be perfect on this. You just need to make sure you're going to every opportunity along the edge to put through. Otherwise you will have holes, which if you find you have holes, you can actually go back through and add some more stitches. So the beauty of this is no one would know. And if you have enjoyed this video, like it, share it, subscribe. I will be doing more. Like I said, the next video will be half double crochet again, but we will be focusing on changing colors while we work, so that way you can make that school bus too, and I will be showing you all the tricks with the school bus since it's been on my desk and I've been showing it to you guys a lot. So I just pulled it out. It's all done. I finished it off, made the knot. Now I'm going to weave in these ends. If for some reason I flipped this over so it was right side out and I see that I had a hole in the seam, I would just get another, I would use this leftover actually because I made the tail so long. I would use the leftover to go over that spot. So it is done. And the seam is pretty minimal. And that is it. And I can show you real quick what it looks like on the coffee cup. Okay. So here's the first one. This is the one that was made in rows. And they don't, I'll tell you, the cups do not fight when they're actually full of coffee. So if you watch me struggle, don't take it too seriously because the cup's empty and it does make it harder to do that than now what I will say is if you're finding you can't get your cup in because of that finishing row we made, take that row out because you made it too tight. The slip stitch, while it does give it a nice finished look, if you make it too tight sometimes it shrinks the size of what you made. That one actually went on much smoother. So there you have it. There's the 2 half double crochet coffee cozies, learning the half double crochet stitch, and this one working in continuous rounds vice this. Now the rounds did pop up and have a chain, so I wouldn't really call that a continuous round. A continuous round is when you're making a stuffy and amigurumi and you don't have to do the chain to get up to the next row. You just keep going around, and that's when you need the stitch marker. But I had showed you there are different ways to do that. We just happened to do the chain one to go up for simplicity's sake. So if you want to see me work in continuous rows on something, just let me know and I'll pick a project that will do that. And we'll keep making these and learning all the different tricks.